JamesAllen.com is the online destination to easily design a customized engagement ring and save up to 50% compared to traditional stores. You pick a diamond, whether it's lab-created or earth-created, James Allen has over 200,000 conflict-free stones. Then you pick your ring setting and metal. And if you need some help, they have real-time diamond consultations available, where an expert can walk you through it all. Get 25% off your order at JamesAllen.com, code podcast. That's JamesAllen.com, code podcast.
Welcome to the Powercat Podcast, GoPowercat.com's Kansas State Athletics Show. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, from the GPC studios, here's your host, GoPowercat publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to another edition of the Powercat Postgame Podcast, the last one for the 2021 season, as we look back at the game Kansas State football just played. And I am GoPowercat publisher Tim Fitzgerald, and I'll be joined shortly by former Kansas State offensive lineman Brien Hanley. He, of course, played on those historic 1997 and 98 K-State football teams that elevated K-State into national prominence on the football front. And we're sponsored by Caddyshack Golf, where Caddyshack's been doing this for a couple years now. We love them. If you like great K-State apparel that not everyone has, that isn't like what everyone else has, the Golfin' Willie logo is probably something you might want to check out. Caddyshack Golf actually owns the trademark to that specific logo, so you can only get it through them. Caddyshack Golf, where it's caddy with 2 T's. Visit Caddyshack Golf for all of your officially licensed Golfing Willie apparel, accessories, and more. Use code GPC for free shipping on your next order. Thank you to Brett and everyone over at Caddyshack Golf for the incredible merchandise and apparel and golf accessories that they provide to K-Staters. Kansas State wins the Texas Bowl 42-20 over LSU on Tuesday night at NRG Stadium in Houston. Myself and the GoPowercat crew were on hand to cover it for you at GoPowercat.com, and Brien Hanley made the drive from his home in Frisco, Texas, down to Houston to watch the Cats play in person. It was a great and fun night to be a Wildcat in Houston, but as I will ask Brien in just one moment, LSU fans are a little bit salty that K-State's happy it won the game. Fans are happy, the team's happy, the coaches are happy. You played a bowl game, and you're happy you won. And now we bring in the offensive lineman himself, Mr. Brien Hanley, who has helped us out for a couple seasons now, Brien. First of all, thank you for that as we wrap up season 2 of this post-game podcast, which I've greatly enjoyed. Let's just launch into this. Kansas State wins 42-20. It was a nice win for K-State. The Wildcats finished 8-5 on the season. LSU, it was depleted. I get it. I get all that. But just give me your opening thoughts on this game and maybe what it meant for the program.
Well, first off, with the game, I thought that the guys came out and played well. LSU didn't have their guys, and you could see it. They still had some players. Don't get me wrong. They were depleted. I understand all that. But first off, that's not our problem. They should have never accepted the bowl game. I'm not talking about not playing in the game. They should have just never accepted to go, because I'm pretty sure they had a good idea on who was going to come, who wasn't going to be eligible, and all that kind of stuff. Not COVID stuff. I'm just talking about ineligible players going to transfer, all that stuff. I'm guessing they had a good idea. But having said that, great win for us. That's not our problem what they had. I thought the guys played well. They played hard. And for the program, I was telling everybody, I'm like, you know what? In 2 years, nobody's going to know or care that LSU didn't have their players when they see this bowl game result. That's good for recruiting. All it's going to say is K-State blew out LSU. That's all anybody's going to see. That's all we need to tell anybody. It's good for us. It's a good win. It's a good for recruiting. It's good to get that bad, just horrible taste out of our mouth from the Texas game. I think it was just good for everybody. A good way to send off the season and to build for the future. I mean, it's a win all the way around, I think, and I don't care who was out there. I just think for K-State, it was great. They played great, and I loved everything about it.
Amen. That's well put. Very well put. I'm just astonished at the revisionist history about LSU. Look, they tried to win the game. I mean, if they had won the game, they were going to be excited. And the fact that so many LSU fans and members of the media are offended that K-State fans are happy their team won. Here's one of my responses. And I had a daily delivery about this. I mentioned it in other parts of editorial content at GoPowercat. But look, every program is in a different position in its growth process.
Yep.
Whether that growth process is trying to regain being a program capable of winning double-digit games, winning Big 12 titles, maybe in an expanded playoff, getting into the field, because without a brand name, that is almost impossible. In fact, I think Cincinnati's the first non-brand name to make it into the playoffs. Maybe I'm wrong. And LSU's depleted. LSU had a coach that mismanaged the program within years of winning a national title. The roster fell apart. The transfer portal's part of the game now. Players left for greener pastures. Players opted out because they're NFL draft worthy. Honestly, a problem K-State doesn't have. Honestly. I mean, that's just where the programs are right now. If you're going to recruit guys that are worthy of playing in the NFL and maybe wanting that to be their ultimate goal, well, then this goes with it. This is part of that process. You can't thump your chest about all the players we have in the NFL, which LSU is amazing at that, and then complain that players sit out. You just can't.
Nope.
That is part of what your program is about. That's cool. That's fine. That's great. I'm sure K-Staters would accept that downside to getting a bunch of 4- and 5-star players. I understand that. And also, just to be clear, I asked R. Ryan Wallace, our recruiting expert, did LSU play this game, despite only 39 scholarship players, or whatever the number is, it seems to move around, did LSU play this game with more 4- and 5-star consensus recruits than K-State has ever had? Yes, was his answer. Maybe it's close. Over the entire course of the program, maybe, just maybe, K-State has recruited more 4- and 5-star players, but for now, LSU clearly had more talent on the field, and that's the way the game was played.
Yep. You're 100% correct. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying it. It's the truth. And just like you said, if they had won the game, first of all, if they would have won the game, I don't know what I would have done. Just to be honest with you, I don't know what I would have done. I'll just leave it at that. But the second of all, it's not like they didn't try. And third of all, again, like I mentioned before, you knew what was going to happen. And first of all, I do thank them for playing the game, because they didn't have to, because we saw other teams that just completely just backed out altogether. So I do give them credit for actually going ahead and playing. But I still believe that they knew guys were going to either transfer, opt out, weren't eligible. They knew those things. They shouldn't have accepted to go to even play in the game. Yeah. They just shouldn't have accepted it. And just as you mentioned earlier, guys opting out every year because they can go to the NFL. Again, I don't begrudge anybody for doing that, because if that's how you're going to try to secure your future, by all means, that's exactly what you should do. Then if LSU is going to have those numbers and then turn around and then complain about it, then unless you're in the playoff, where clearly guys aren't going to opt out if they're going to the playoff, then just don't go to any bowl games anymore. If that's your thinking, if that's how you think it, just don't go anymore. Pretty simple.
I agree. Let's talk about the game. How about that?
Sure.
It just sticks in my craw. I've seen some of the worst social media posts and message board posts from fan base I've ever seen.
It's ridiculous.
Wishing players died in plane crashes.
Yes.
Wishing cancer. Wishing just horrible things simply because K-State played a game that was scheduled at LSU's request. Period. That's it. That's
unbelievable.
All K-State did was showed up and be happy about a victory. And again, I was on the field at the end of the game trying to do one of my post-game walk-in talks, and the LSU band was playing over the top of the start of the trophy ceremony. So this seems to be a sore loser gene embedded into Baton Rouge, and that's cool. That's fine.
Yeah.
Go be you. You're in the mighty SEC. Have fun. Brian Kelly's a horrible hire. There we go. I said it. Put it out.
Yeah, and it's they're going to see. You give it 3 years, and they're going to be looking for another one.
Look, I'm not saying Brian Kelly's a bad coach. He's a great coach. He's had success wherever he's gone. Yeah, but he's not a great coach for the SEC.
That's right. It's not going to work there.
Particularly in a culture that is so obviously Southern. And it's just not going to work. Okay, so we go to the game now, and K-State comes out and does something that caught me off guard. They won the toss. They took the ball. We haven't seen that in a long time because Bill Snyder, like Chris Kleiman, I don't remember what Ron Prince did. I kind of blocked it. Always likes to defer. You take the ball because our goal is to score to end the first half and score to open the second half because you mathematically can't overcome back-to-back scores if we take care of business. And that's a pretty simple philosophy in which I agree totally. Chris Kleiman said this game's different. We want the ball. We want Skylar Thompson on the field, healthy, ready to go, so we can move it up the field. Now, it wasn't easy. I mean, LSU's defense, again, was very talented and incredibly fast, even though they were inexperienced. I'll grant them that. It took K-State, 11 plays to move 75 yards, the last 25 of which was a catch on a nice pass by Skylar Thompson to identify an open guy under pressure, which Sky did throughout the game. LSU got pressure on him. And Malik Knowles took it 25 yards for the touchdown. How important was that drive for K-State?
I think it basically set the tone for the entire football game because they came out, played well. And like you said, they got pressure. I mean, LSU, again, they had guys. They did. But we handled it and went right down the football field. And I just think it just said, you know what, guys, we're here. We're ready to play. We're better than they are, and let's go out here and prove that we're better than they are. And I think it just set the tone. Just set the tone for the whole game. It was great.
It was awfully fun to see because it answered a few questions Kansas State had coming into the game. Question one, how healthy actually is Skylar? Are they just saying he's the healthiest he's been all year? Well, it became pretty obvious the way he was moving around. He was at a healthy point, and the way he was throwing the ball means he probably had more confidence in that torn pec. And by the way, he admitted after the game it was a torn pec, something they had never actually said, even though we've reported that, which is a horrible injury, just almost impossible to come back for a quarterback when it's your throwing arm, and he did. Also, it answered this. Will Colin Klein be able to offer something different to this offense that will inspire it and give it a better opportunity to score and win games? And right away we understood that the play calling was a little bit more nuanced and that the offense seemed more locked in for the start of the game than typical. You know, they just actually looked completely prepared. And finally, was the play calling going to be not too radical? You know, like I've been saying, this has been my metaphor from day one. Colin Klein inherited a set of paints and painted something entirely different than his predecessor. And they didn't change the offense. They just used the offense. And Skylar was great. The weapons were involved throughout the game. He spread the ball around. 10 different receivers caught passes. And it was brilliant to watch. I guess where I'm going here is after that first drive, what were your initial impressions as Colin Klein as interim offensive coordinator?
I thought it was just refreshing. I mean, you didn't know. And I know some people had said, you get a month. That's not enough time to do anything. I'm like, yeah, actually it is. I'm not saying you're going to change the offense, but it's enough time to put in nuances and put your spin on what you want to do and call it differently. Just use the entire offense. Like you said, just use it. There's nothing wrong with the offense. It's literally, but you got to use it and you got to use it right. And you got to be different and unpredictable and do things that you don't think, that you don't normally do or wouldn't normally do. Just Don't be afraid to be aggressive. And I think that's the best word, is that we were aggressive. And when you're aggressive, when you need to be in the right spots, things tend to we were going to work out. I mean, we were going to beat LSU. Let's just call it what it is. We were going to beat them because we were better than them, had better players. But at the same time, it was good for Colin Klein. I've said this. People have asked me, and I just said, I don't think he should get the job based on how well we played. I think he should get the job because he's earned it. Because, again, we were better than LSU. And what he did, I think he's earned the right to be the offensive coordinator. I don't think you can earn the right to be an offensive coordinator based on one football game. I just don't believe that. I think what he's done overall, I think he's earned that right. And I don't want to disrespect him and say, hey, what you did on one game, against a bunch of depleted football team means you earn the right to it. No. I think he's earned the right to do it. And this just enhanced what I already thought and what a lot of people already thought. So it's good to see. It was great.
The players were clearly bought in. The tempo of this offense was consistent and better. They went up tempo a little bit when they needed to. They pushed it. Yep. They didn't back off the gas. They were aggressive in play calling without being reckless. They averaged 7.1 yards per play. I was amazed to see that they only ran 62 plays in the game because it felt like more, simply because the previous offense was running closer to 48, which was LSU's total. 442 yards of offense. Skyler was amazing in his ability to throw the ball, 21 of 28, 3 touchdowns. Overall, I can't point to anything that I thought K-State did poorly on offense. Maybe a little bit of protection issues against an LSU front that was really fast and big, and I know they gave up a couple sacks, so maybe that's the criticism. But boy, the way this was put together was awesome. But again, it's one game. But the way the players bought in, the way the players reacted pre and post game tells me all I need to know about Colin Klein and the offensive coordinator position. And he said it before that this wasn't an audition, but I said it before. If Colin Klein kicks ass, how is he not going to hire a K-State legend? And that's pretty much the position Chris Kleiman's in now. If he doesn't hire Colin Klein as the full-time number one OC, not a co-OC that, helps out the real OC, the main guy, Chris Kleiman, is going to have some splaining to do because K-State fans were pretty excited about what they saw.
Well, I mean, if he doesn't hire him, first of all, who are you going to hire? Number one. 2, you're going to have to be ready for some defections because that's going to happen. But just what you said, Fitz, it's the guys how they responded to him, how they responded to Colin and what he was doing. And just you could see it was just a breath of fresh air. Well, change anything yet? And I'm sure. I mean, he's going to change some things because, again, you always want to put your own spin on certain stuff. And that's just the way that it works. You should want to do that. Having said that, he's the guy for the job. He's the guy for the job. Look, he's been there. He knows the program. The main thing is he knows how to recruit to the program. So he's the guy for the job. It's just we're going to move in a direction. Let's move in that direction and let's get it figured out. Because, again, like you said, it is just one game, but it was a great game. And and every game is not going to be like this. So I don't want everybody to think, oh, God, we made the wrong hire if one game goes wrong because, that'll happen. But at the same time, it's like, look, what are we looking for here? What are we trying to do? I mean, this was a great football game. And again, just moving guys around, changing formations, changing to where we ran, how we ran, where we threw, how we threw, blocking protections. I was sitting up with an old K-State guy watching the game at the game, and we're like, they're changing some of the protections from one side to another, or changing protections. Oh, they're blocking it this way. And they run the same formation, but they block it a different way. It was great. I loved it. It was awesome.
Yeah, a lot of that was great preparation by Skyler. You could see him moving those protections around during the course of the game. It was so impressive. Those are the things that were important to K-State. Does Deuce Vaughn stay the focal point of the offense without being the only focal point of the offense? You know what I mean? It felt like at times defenses could say, we're going to stop that little guy and wearing the 22 jersey and they'll be screwed. And K-State,
correct.
came out, tried to run the ball with Deuce. First play, okay, and then they really shut it down. LSU did a nice job. Colin Klein went to the pass, opened it back up, and eventually Deuce got his, 146 yards on 21 carries. So Deuce was still the focal point of the offense without being the only thing that LSU had to stop. And that is a great sign. Deuce Vaughn is just Deuce Vaughn. He's a three-star kid. He's about 5'7" on a good day. He's not as big as Darren Sproles, and I had to answer those comparisons a little bit in pregame radio, which I appreciate and understand, because Deuce, as Chris Kleiman said, is the best player in college football. Maybe overstating it a little bit, but when you look at a first-team consensus All-American as an all-purpose player, it's hard to match him, isn't it?
Yeah. Deuce Vaughn is special. He is just a special guy. He just, from all accounts, and again, I've never met him, but he seems like a great guy. Guys love being around him. And on the football field, there's just not a whole lot that he can't do, Fitz. I mean, the guy blocks. I mean, for being as little a guy as he is, he blocks. He runs hard. He runs in between the tackles. He's not just some guy you got to get out on the edges. He's not that guy. I mean, he can do that, but that's not what his thing is. He catches the ball out of the backfield so good. You can just line him up out there if you want to. Put him in the slot and let him do his thing. It's like, the more pub that he gets, it's going to be better for K-State as a program, but it's all well deserved. The guy is just a football player. He's just a good football player, and you don't see that a lot. He's a 3-star, like you mentioned, a 3-star guy. That if he was 4 inches taller, he'd have been a 5-star guy. It's just basically all it comes down to. I don't even know. I mean, if he'd have been 5'10", he'd have been a 5-star guy. But he's not. So here's where we are. But I just, about a kid like that, that's my thing, is that he's just a football player that knows how to play, and he uses what he's got to the best of his ability, because sometimes guys don't. Some guys, they come in and it's not that they think that they're great, but they do a couple things well, and that's all they do. Well, he does everything well, and he excels at it, and clearly he's working on it. It's not just, hey, I'm good at this, and I'll be okay at it. No, he's excelling at doing it, and it's going to be good. I can't wait for next year. I literally can't wait for next year.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Okay, offensive lineman, how did that offensive line acquit itself against a very, very athletic LSU front?
I think they did great. It's like you said, they got pressure. I mean, they got pressure, and they were going to get pressure. I mean, those guys are good. I mean, you can't block all, and there was a couple of times they brought more than him. What are you going to do? But at the same time, I just thought we got after them, and we wore them down. Now, granted, they couldn't shuffle linemen and do that sort of thing. We just wore them down. But I think the offensive line, for the most part, we beat them up. We literally beat them up.
And Malik Knowles, who we all recognize hasn't been getting the ball enough, really had a nice game. Phillip Brooks led the team with 5 catches, including the play of the game, if you ask me, the pass to him along the press box side boundary in the middle of 3 LSU defenders. It was one of those throws when you see Skylar let it loose, you're like, oh, then he just dropped it in a bucket. Maybe, yeah, it's a memorable play. But Phillip did have 5 catches for 69 yards, but Malik was targeted 5 times, had 3 catches, 42 yards, 2 touchdowns. What's amazing is that yards after catch, out of his 42 yards, 37 of them were after the catch. Pretty impressive. Give me your thoughts on the receiving end. I'll get into tight ends in a second. On the receiving end of this equation,
I know we've been screaming about it all year long. You just got to get it in their hands. Give them a chance. Throw the ball down the field some. You just got to give them an opportunity. Now, some of it has been on them. They, not getting open. Maybe they're not healthy or whatever the case may be. And then dropping passes. I mean, that had been a little bit of an issue too, but you just got to give them an opportunity. And maybe some of the route combinations weren't what we wanted or what they could have been versus what we did, against LSU. But all in all, I thought the receivers played outstanding football. Just get them the ball. design some things to get him the ball in some space, give him some space to run, and you see what happens. I thought they played. This is the best game I've seen them play in 2 years. I'll be quite frankly. Best game I've seen the receivers play in 2 years.
Yep. Cade Warner, 3 catches for a total of 42 yards, maybe Cade's best performance as a Wildcat, maybe his last. He has the ability, I believe, to come back for a super senior season. I never thought I'd say this. I kind of hope he does. I hope he does and plays with his old teammate, Adrian Martinez. Landry Weber, 2 catches, including a crucial one on which he got his knee twisted up and under him, or an ankle. We have a photo of it. It's not pretty. You can't tell if his foot is bent back and his knee is torqued. So it could have been multiple things ending his game and possibly career. He was a senior, but he could have come back, I believe. Just great. Eric Hommel, a reserve that hasn't played much, stepped in for Landry. They were already shorthanded at receiver. Eric had one big catch. But it happened. It happened. A new play caller got the ball to tight ends. Daniel Amader-Bebe, 2 targets, 2 catches, 35 yards. Sammy Wheeler, 1 catch, 12 yards. Nick Lenners, 2 targets, 1 catch, 5 yards. Ben Sinnott, H-back, plays a lot of fullback, but he really is a tight end back there, including his 1 catch for 4 yards was a little RPO pitch forward for a pass on a third down in which they, it was right out of the Chiefs playbook. I mean, it's not a unique play, but the Chiefs run it a lot where it looked like you're going to go option the corner and then you pitch it forward to a receiver for a first down. It was really good. Man, you got to get the ball to those guys.
Yes.
It not just because it's fair and it's nice and it makes them feel good. It screws up the defense, period.
Yes. Nobody likes for the tight end to catch footballs on them. Nobody likes it. Because literally we're tight ends. They're running down the middle of your defense. You don't like when somebody's just gutting your defense, and that's just what happens, man. You got to get those guys a football. We've been screaming for it, and by God, they threw them the football, and they were wide. I mean, there were times, Fitz, they were wide open. Just running and spending nobody around. I'm like, you know what? It's good. And there were times they were covered too, but they were throwing it to them and they were catching it. It's just, you got to use your tight ends, man. They are so vital to an offense. Because if they weren't, nobody would have them on the roster. And I know people, they're an extra lineman. No, they're not. Not all the time anyway. Not all the time. You need those guys to catch those tough passes that you're throwing down the middle of the field, or wide open crossing routes, which it seemed like we had a couple. I was just like, man, this is great. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Amen, brother. Let's take a little pause right now on the Powercat Postgame Podcast, sponsored by Caddyshack Golf. I'm Fitz. He is Brien Hanley, and we will be right back.
GoPowercat.com's Powercat Podcast continues after this short break.
The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/247 and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Must be 21 plus and present in Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, permitted parishes only, Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com GoPowercat.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-522-4700, or visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York, or visit oasas.ny.gov/gambling. Standard text messaging rates apply. Sports betting is void in Georgia, Hawaii, Utah, and other states where prohibited.
Diets and workouts, you've done the work, so why can't you get to your goal weight? That's because up to 70% of your weight is predetermined by your genetics. So while you've been told that it's all about your willpower, you're actually fighting your biology. Don't do it alone. Found's Doctor Design program uses medication as part of a treatment plan that targets your body's unique biological needs, so that your body works with you and not against you. Take the quiz at joinfound.com to see if Found's weight loss program is right for you.
Welcome back to the Powercat Podcast. Now, let's return to the GPC studios.
Welcome back to the Powercat Postgame Podcast, sponsored by Caddy Shack Golf. For K-Staters, by K-Staters, jackets, hats, polos, t-shirts, golf accessories. Caddy Shack Golf, wear caddy with 2 T's. Visit Caddy Shack Golf. Use code GPC for free shipping on your next order. Let's turn our attention now to the K-State defense, which was good. I mean, it was really nice to see them come out and get 3 and outs on the first 2 drives. And, you know, at one point, LSU had hardly even touched the ball and K-State was up 14-0. And that's what a defense does for you. Let's just set the tone. Let's get it going early. Now, LSU came down and scored in the first half. I thought it was a nice play. Yes, the receiver pushed off. I thought the refs are like, here's a little sympathy touchdown. I really felt that way. It was obviously pass interference in my book, but so be it. Looking back, it didn't really matter at all. 21-7 at half. K-State comes out in the second half, shuts down LSU again. They were starting to move the ball a little bit, but they weren't getting close enough to score. And K-State got it 42-7. Defense, not a perfect day, not a great day, but considering they had no idea in reality who was going to play quarterback for the Tigers, going up against a kind of a speedy option-based guy that hadn't played since high school but was an incredible athlete. And a tip of my hat to Jontre Kirkland, because he was a man before, during, and after the game. An absolute man in how he handled everything. But I thought the defense was good, not great. Your thoughts?
I thought they were good. I mean, it's hard to get a barometer when you know that the opposing quarterback can't throw the football. So, I mean, playing a wide receiver at quarterback makes it difficult. And they kept running it, But I just thought the game wasn't in doubt or I should take that back. When the game was in doubt, I thought the defense put the hammer down on them. They gave up a touchdown there in the second quarter. But other than that, the guys came out, put the hammer down, and didn't allow them to do what they were trying to do. And again, I know we can talk about they were depleted. They had guys that could run the football. I mean, those guys were fast. And you could see the guys, and they were getting guys in the ball in their hands. I mean, those guys were shifty, were fast. They had guys in front. But I just thought the defense did an outstanding job of just shutting down what they were trying to get accomplished.
Special teams did a nice job in this game. Ty Zentner had to step in and place kick. He started the year as the 3rd-string place kicker. He's doing kickoffs and punts, but shortly before the game, I think the day before the game, Chris Tennant tested positive for COVID, so he had to sit it out. And I thought Ty did a really nice job. He missed a swing on a punt pretty badly, but that's okay. Jack Bloomer came in and boomed a punt. And really the biggest disappointment was Malik Knowles didn't get his kickoff return. He took a bad angle, cut the wrong way, ran right into the place kicker, something that'll just haunt him for
he had it
for a long time. He had it. If he just turned it out, he probably would outrun him. But special teams did its job. I expected more glory, but then that's not how the game played out. But who's greedy, right?
Yeah, I thought special teams did a good job. They did their job. Like I said, it's could have had that kickoff return, and you're right. I mean, when he got into the locker room, I'm going to guarantee you they gave it to him. There's no chance that the guys gave it to him. Having said that, though, they did their job. I mean, yeoman's work. We wanted more, but again, the game didn't permit us to do that. So it is what it is.
K-State finishes the season 8-5. As Chris Kleiman said, 8-5 is much better than 7-6, something apparently Iowa State fans thought was a shot at them. No, it's about K-State football. It's unbelievable. It's about K-State football because 8 wins was a nice step for a program picked 7th in the conference. Let's remember that. They were picked 7th in the Big 12, finished in the upper half, won a bowl game, got to 8 wins. Give me your thoughts after 3 full seasons of Chris Kleiman, even though the one in the middle was the COVID mess. How is the program coming along in his hands?
I think that for where we were, you got to start back at the beginning of the season, Fitz. If you'd have told us that we were going to win 8 games at the beginning of the season, I think that everybody would have been happy about it. So you can't look and dive into the season and dissect it and pick out parts and say, oh, we should have done this, should have done that. No. Here's what we thought at the beginning of the year. If we can get to 8 wins, it's a good season. I think it's a good season. And I'm still saying it's a good season. Having said that, the program, or having said that, we could have won some games that maybe we didn't. But having said that, the program is going in the right direction. Program is going in the right direction. I think all K-State fans should be happy for what they've seen. Not just this football game, but this football game can build momentum. You know, I think that's where you don't want to lose fans as far as – I'm not talking about not rooting for K-State anymore. What I'm talking about, you don't want to lose fans and thinking, hey, we blew out LSU and that's great. No, it's about the trajectory of the program and building the momentum. And that's what you take into the next year. When I was playing back, and I know it was a long time ago, but when we won the Fiesta Bowl, that carried us into spring practice, and then that carried us into next season. And that's what you need to build on your program. You always want to be going up. You don't want to be going, plateau, or definitely don't want to be going down. You want to be going up and building momentum. And you got to build momentum again. You got to build it any way you can. And this is the way that we can do that right now. And it's just a weird deal, as you mentioned, with that whole COVID thing in the middle, because it just zapped us. I want to say probably more than 70% of other teams in the country. It just did. And it's crazy. And to build on top of that with the transfer portal, everything's wild. Well, you know what? We just got to start here. We're on the right trajectory. I think everything's moving forward. We've gotten some transfers that have come in. We'll probably get some more. Well, we're going to lose some guys, I'm sure. It's just the way that it works. But I just think that things are just moving in the right direction. This is a good win, a good momentum builder for everybody to feel good. Now, we can't lay an egg, with the rest of the recruiting. We got to keep going. But I think winning this, it just makes everybody feel good. And that's what you want at the end of the season. You want to feel good about it. You don't want to feel bad about it. And I think that's the main thing to take away, is that everybody feels good. And if we're feeling good, we're playing good, we're recruiting good, and the program's moving good. Am I off base with that?
No, not at all.
Okay.
That Texas game, I think pissed off the K-State locker room.
Absolutely.
Because there was no way they should have lost that game. There's no way they should have lost that game. They had to gift it, and I think they feel like they gifted it. Honestly, and I love Courtney Messingham. I'm just going to say that. I think he is a great man, but his play calling stunk in the game. It just absolutely stunk to the point where a change had to be made. So maybe, again, LSU fans, you can learn from that. Maybe sometimes that low point is so that you can have better times ahead. And that's kind of what K-State has been through in its history, and it's had some great times. But I like where the program's going. The thing I like the most, Brien, is the locker room. The locker room was everyone's locker room last year was tested. Because of COVID, things going on, that distracted players. There was just so much motion and just commotion all through society, and it spilled into college athletics. Trying to rebuild your locker room, and it sounds like LSU wasn't able to do that. And K-State, Chris Kleiman did that. I said this on one of my walk and talks after the game. I've never heard coaches and players openly express to each other, I love you, as much as I've heard, which is, something new for men. It's something that I appreciate that guys now can say openly like that. But this locker room was so well bonded and bought in. And I think that's Chris Kleiman's greatest job that he's done so far, is he knows that it all starts in that locker room. If you've got a poisonous locker room that LSU apparently had this season, it ruins you. It doesn't matter how much talent you have. It ruins you. You're not a team.
Yeah.
K-State really was a team this year, through thick and thin, through those 3 losses early in the year. And I think that can carry over from season to season. Bill Snyder always said it. Every team's different. Every locker room's different. You have to manage it every season. You can't ignore it or you lose it. And he is right, and Chris Kleiman gets it. But boy, Brien, having a cohesive locker room, something you enjoyed in your 2 years at K-State, is almost half the battle, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's what I can say. For me personally, I can talk about it in 2 different lights, because in high school, I just went to a high school that has lots and lots of success with basketball, and I played basketball. And we had a locker room that everybody didn't always like everybody, and that was in high school. But when it came time to play, we got along enough in the locker room. And that's what guys don't understand. You don't have to be best buddies. And I think that's what people think of when they talk about the locker room. They think, well, everybody's always hanging out with everybody. It's not always that. It's just, you know what? We could have had a fist fight 10 minutes ago, and we walk inside that locker room and we are best buddies because we are trying to either get better in practice or we're trying to go win a football game. And that's what it is you just have to understand and come together and just, you know what? We're here to win. I'm going to be your best buddy while we're here. And that's what it is. Now there's that side of it. And then there's the other side of it where everybody just loves everybody, which makes it even better. Because a lot of times the other way, you have to have really, really mature people to understand that kind of concept. Well, at college, I'll just be the first one to tell you, as my personal experience, I wasn't a very mature guy. So I just had to love everybody, to get along with everybody. And for the most part, that's what you have in a good locker room, is that everybody loves everybody. So to have that, and you're right, it is new because, when I was playing, guys weren't telling everybody they loved each other. That just wasn't part of it. That's just not what society was about at that time. Well, now it is, and that's okay. And I think it's awesome. And for the guys to care about each other that way, it just it changes everything about your football team, man. It just does. It just makes things so much easier to get better, because I can tell Fitz, hey, you know what? You blocked it this way. Have you thought about blocking it that way? Oh, yeah. You know what, Brien? I never thought about that. Or vice versa. You can say those things to each other without it being you're critiquing versus criticizing. And I take it as critiquing versus criticizing because there's a huge difference. And I could literally say the same thing to somebody and one person take it one way and another person takes it another.
Amen.
And that is the way, that's how you have a cohesive locker room, when everybody understands, hey man, if I say something to you, I'm not getting on you. I just want to help you. And that's the difference you can see that in the K-State. You can see that with the team. And again, I'm not around the team. I don't have the access, or I don't know that I even want to have the access because that's not my thing to be able to do that. I just like looking from the outside in, and you can see the guys really, really care about each other, man. And that locker room, it's last year, you could tell, Fitz. You could just tell. It was like walking on pins and needles. Well, it wasn't like that. It was like walking on cotton this year, and that's a difference.
I love it. Look, I cringe at too many military references with sports, but in terms of team building, I think this is important to say, and my metaphor for this, there are times in conflict when you're so thankful that you have a certain guy next to you in the foxhole, but you would never invite him to your wedding.
That's exactly right. That's right.
And when you step on a battlefield, much more important than sports, or a football field, having the right guys in the foxhole with you, it says it all. And I think K-State players would agree with that.
Absolutely.
Look, LSU played with more NFL talent than K-State in this game, even though, look, they're young and they're inexperienced. I get all that. I understand. But they still played with a ton of NFL talent. When I say NFL player, K-State roster, who do you think of?
Well, the first thing, I go to the line.
Good point.
I think we've got linemen that are going to play, but I don't know. I mean, Deuce Vaughn's going to get his opportunity, but I don't know how many guys are going to play in the NFL, Fitz. I just don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that none of them can. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying when you look at K-State, you think of them, I think linemen, we're going to have a few. But other than that, I don't know. I just don't know that we have that kind of talent yet. I don't know.
Yeah, when you stop and look at it, and this is a great context for K-State fans to understand, and how things have changed with the program through the years, because some of those great teams, your team put so many guys in the league, it's just overwhelming when you go back and look at it. It's absolutely incredible. But last year's best player, Wyatt Hubert, was a 7th-round pick.
Correct.
That's the context you need to address here. Look, I think Russ Yeast might make it. He's just an incredibly smart safety, a little undersized for the league, but I can see him maybe making a team. Daniel Green, I think, has a future. He wants to come back for a senior season to prove himself a little bit. I get that, and I appreciate that. A little undersized at linebacker, maybe a safety in the league. We'll see. We'll see. Of course, I think Felix Anudike-Uzomah, if he continues to physically enhance himself, gets a little bit bigger, cut out a little bit more, he's got the explosiveness to play. But all those guys, there's no guarantees there. There's never a guarantee.
No.
There's no, he's in the league.
No.
He's absolutely, we all knew that about Darren Sproles. We all knew that about Jordy Nelson and Tyler Lockett. That guy can play. It doesn't matter what his size is or any other intangible or tangible. He's a player. Deuce probably is, even though he's so small. I mean, he's small by Darren Sproles standards. Daniel Amadubebe, I think was greatly underused this season and is another one of those guys. Malik Knowles, another one of those guys. Go prove yourself, you can do it. But yeah, as surefire hits, no, man, it's incredible. And that's K-State football, though. That's the process of getting to the goal of getting more guys that can play in the league.
Correct.
And that's what I like about this season. It seemed like a journey, a step forward, putting K-State back in the upper half of the conference where it needs to be. And now it can continue to climb and pick off some teams, and then the makeup of the league will change. And Brien, this is where I want to get your thoughts. How important is it that K-State is on the upward trajectory as we near, and we still don't know when the date is, the departure of Oklahoma and Texas and the introduction of 3 or 4 new teams, which will happen in maybe 2023. How important is it to be going in the right direction right when the composition changes?
It's gigantic, Fitz. It is just huge. You got to be going in the right direction, because I'll just be honest, those teams that are coming in are not bad football teams. So they're not going to just be coming in here as just run-of-the-mill, we're adding some teams to the conference so we can say we have some numbers. Those are going to have those teams are going to have some football players that we're going to have to compete with. So we need to get into the upper echelon to get this thing moving even more in the right direction. So it's extremely important, because, like I said, you can say what you want about Cincinnati. Okay, and where it is and what they had. But they were in the college playoff this year. You can say what you want about Houston. Houston has put out some good NFL players here recently, and it's Houston. If they can get guys that, hey, you know what, we're in the Big 12 now. We're not in, the AAC, that we're actually in the Big 12 conference. who's to say that some guys don't start going to Houston from Texas, from going to other places and things of that nature? I mean, that's, to me, Houston is the diamond in the rough of all of those. And BYU is BYU. They're always going to be good. I think people leave them out sometimes because they're kind of out there by themselves. But BYU's been good forever. I mean, I don't really remember like a 5 or 10 year period where you just, BYU is awful. Well, no, they've never been awful, and then Central Florida kind of speaks for itself. They're building their program. They got to, I think they went to the Peach Bowl, I believe, and played well. They won the game because I think they gave themselves their national championship. But they're going to be good. So K-State's got to be on our P's and Q's and get this thing moving in the right direction. I mean, it is moving in the right direction. Don't get me wrong, but we got to keep going. I mean, we can't stop here because those guys are going to be coming in looking to knock us off. Because I can tell you right now, their thinking is we're better than K-State. We're going to come into the conference and we're better than K-State. They're below us. We need to beat them. Well, we need to be on a trajectory to where they can't just come in and blow our doors off or think they can blow our doors off. That's the main thing is I think it's really, really important that we keep the ball going and knock off as many as we can knock off because I just think it's important because those teams that are coming in are good football teams.
This future conference, the members that will be in the future Big 12 did really well against the SEC. Iowa State lost to Clemson, the big name program, the Atlantic Coast Conference, but I get it. I mean, Iowa State was missing best players and did a great job competing. I mean, they really did. BYU just wasn't invested in that game. I understand. It's the Independence Bowl after a 10-win season. Oh, you've been there, right?
Exactly.
You've been after a season doesn't finish up quite the way you thought, and then you crash through the bowl setting, and you end up what was then a not-so-great bowl in the Alamo Bowl in '98. So I was just blown away by the consistency with which this future conference is playing and the defense with which this future conference is playing.
Yeah, absolutely.
The national media still wants to believe that the Big 12 is all about offense, and that's true for Oklahoma. They don't play great defense. They still don't. But they can outscore you, which they did in their bowl victory. But this is going to be an incredibly competitive conference from top to bottom. And it's going to be a blast watching the pecking order get sorted out. Yeah, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, Baylor all have a jump on everyone because they're in a good spot right now. K-State's trying to get there. Iowa State might be on the decline. We'll see. Matt Campbell's a good coach. I don't think he's as good as everyone thinks, but he's a pretty solid coach. He's a great recruiter, and that's hurting K-State in itself. But I'm so excited about the future of the conference and K-State football. And I'm going to be blunt. I'm more excited now than I probably have been since Bill Snyder retired the first time around. I really am. I know they won a title in 2012 after he came back, and that was great. But I didn't see that translating into an ongoing upward trajectory of the program that we had enjoyed for so many years under Coach Snyder. I can see that happening now.
Well, and I think it's just where we are with the program and where we were, because I'll be honest, last year, it kind of felt like a bottom out type of deal. It really did. I know there were circumstances and that kind of thing that led to that. But with everything that happened to me, it just seemed like, oh, my goodness, it was getting away from us, and we reeled it back in and got it back to where I don't think a lot of us thought that it could get to so quickly. I think that a 6-6 year, everybody would have said, okay, that's great. Getting it back to where, and then thinking, I think that's why everybody was so disappointed at Texas. Matter of fact, I know that's why everyone was so disappointed after Texas, because, man, we could win 9 games this year, and last year is what it was, and we could win 9 games. That's why everybody was so bummed out when we lost to Texas. And I think that, and I mean 9 games after, we won a bowl game, but I just think everybody was so bummed out about it, and to have the program going the right way, it's nothing but excitement, man. You can't help but to be excited. That's why I thought winning the game and winning it in the fashion and who we beat is so important, because it just gives that breath of fresh air, and everybody is happy. You just, hey, we beat them. And I'll be honest, I thought we should have handled them like we did. Because if we wouldn't have, I would have been like, oh, man, this isn't great. They're not playing hardly anybody. I mean, they still have really talented guys. They just don't have a bunch of them. And I go, and here we are. We've got our team, and we can't do anything with it. But that's not what happened. Literally, the game was a blowout. It was. We're up 42-7. It was a blowout. So, we whipped them. We whipped them, and I just think everybody feels good. Everybody feels great. Let's keep going. Let's get this second signing period. Let's keep that. First off, let's get Colin hired. Let's do that. Let's fill the positions, and let's keep going with the recruiting. Let's get this second signing period. Let's hammer that down and get some more guys in. If we need to get some more transfers, that's even better. But let's just keep it all going and keep it all positive, because, there'll be tough days, but we don't need to manufacture the tough days. This is a good time for K-State right now.
His name's Brien Hanley. He played offensive line at Kansas State 97 and 98 on those historically great Wildcat teams under Coach Bill Snyder. You just won 22 games in 2 years? Is that right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, not bad at all. And he's helped us out now for the second straight season with pregame, postgame podcast. Brien, thank you for a great ride, and my New Year's hope is that you will be back for us in 2022.
Absolutely. I will keep coming back as long as you have me. I love doing it. I've gotten to know a little bit more about you, about, I'm a kind of an outsider of the K-State program. And when I mean an outsider, I don't try to dabble in and dive in on access because I was a former player. I don't like doing that. I'm a fan. And I enjoy being a fan. So I've gotten to learn a lot about, the K-State fans and interacting with them these last 2 years. It is really, really fun. Some people, they get disgusted with me because I'm pretty blunt, but at the same time, I'm always honest and fair. And I love doing this, Fitz. So I appreciate everything that you've done for me, man. Thank
you, my friend, so much. Kansas State wraps up the 2021 season with a victory in the Texas Bowl to start 2022, 42-20 over. That's a lot of 20s, man. 42-20 over the LSU Tigers to end the season with an 8-5 mark. It all comes around pretty soon. Next season's non-conference schedule: South Dakota, Missouri, and Tulane all visit Bill Snyder Family Stadium, and when that happens, we will reconvene. Thank you so much to the great folks over there at Caddyshack Golf for being our sponsor throughout the year. I am Fitz, and make sure you stay tuned to GoPowercat's Powercat Podcast, because we're going to continue the discussion about K-State football, K-State basketball, and all things purple.
Thank you for listening to the Powercat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. Powercat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowercat.com.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.